DogWorks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dog Works. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com. DogWorks Radio Network presents Mushing Radio, hosted by Robert Forto. Mushing Radio is about dog-powered sports, living in the Great White North, and mushing. Visit our website at mushingradio.com. Here is your host, Robert Forto.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Robert Forto for Mushing Radio on KVRF 89.7 in the MatSu Valley. RadioFreePalmer.org is our live streaming site, and you can find all of our episodes over on dogworksradio.com. Be sure to check us out on social media by searching DogWorks Radio. And today we're doing a special report. We are joined by the Vice President of the Willow Dog Mushers Association. Her name is Christine Stitt. Christine, how's it going?
Going well, thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to talk about the Willow fires up here in Willow, Alaska, and how it's potentially impacting a heck of a lot of mushers in the area, possibly up to 1,000 dogs and many mushers that are in the evac zone or could potentially be impacted by this fire. But before we get started, I'm sure that most of our listeners can remember the big Sakai Fire that happened about 4 years ago, and it was a very similar situation and pretty much in the same area as this one. Christine, can you give us sort of a lay of the land of what people can expect Willow to look like, you know, that are listening outside, just kind of the geographics of Willow and where the concentrations of mushers are?
The larger concentration, of course, is closest to the Parks Highway between milepost, I'm going to say 69, all the way up to mile 90. We do have, of course, many other kennels south of there, but the area that they're concerned with right now is between mile marker 78 and 89. And at that point, we're looking at mushers who are back and hidden in, you know, in areas that the fire can reach. So they're basically all right in that general area.
And currently, for folks that may not know, there are two relatively large forest fires here in the MatSu Valley. We have the McKinley Fire that's gotten most of the news since it's right along the highway, and then the lesser-known Deshka Fire, which happens to be closer to us at about mile 64 or 65, and there are several mushers down here in our little neighborhood, but thankfully we are not impacted like you guys are just a little bit further to the north. I know a big concern right now, not only for the evacuees and all of that, but the road closure for really the only way in and out of Willow, the Parks Highway. It's closed through pretty much Willow Central, and I think it's at about mile 72 or something like that, all the way up to about mile 89. Is that correct?
Yeah, they actually have moved it a little bit further north now. They're at mile 76.
Mile 76. So least
they have moved up for, yes.
So at least people can get in and out a little bit easier. And I know that there are several mushing kennels at about mile 72. So first off, let's give a little bit of a history of fire danger here in South Central. Can you tell us about the Sakai Fire? I know that you were here during that time, and of course the Willow Dog Mushers Club was very proactive with that. And here we go again, almost 4 years, or just a little over 4 years later, and we're dealing with the same situation all over again, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Sad to say. Basically, what we've got is, history repeating itself. We have more of a handle on evacuations and assistance and relocations now. Of course, we've learned a lot of lessons from the Sakai Fire, a lot of lessons. And so have the mushers. The mushers have been very good at making sure they've got a buddy system and being able to relocate. So we've got a better hand on it this time around. And at this point in time, we haven't had any serious emergency evacuations with any of the mushers because they've already taken care of their evacuation processes if they're even close to the fire. They've actually moved a lot of mushers, from my understanding, whether it be recreational, sports, professional, have already taken care of their evacuation process, got it in order, have left, and are at buddy kennels. So we learned a lot from the Sakai Fire, and the dangers are very high. Of course, we had an extremely dry summer, and then these winds came in. So we learned a great deal.
Yes,
and I think it's helped us a lot.
We did, for sure. And I remember being a part of that Sakai Fire, and thankfully we were not impacted down here. But I just remember having to go through that evacuation process. And oftentimes, if you're not prepared, it can really smack you in the face. I remember it took us several hours and pretty much a convoy of trucks and trailers and whatnot just to get our dogs safely down into Wasilla. But when you're thinking about evacuation, and again, this is more for our listeners than anything, it is a huge process, isn't it? It isn't something like just throw a suitcase in the backseat of the Toyota and rock and roll. This is something that takes several hours or potentially a couple of days to get ready, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. You're talking dog trucks full of food, equipment, chains, dogs, trailers, trucks on hand. And when you look at a dog musher that has a large kennel, let's just say 50 or more dogs, you're looking at having to have several dog trucks, because most generally a musher will take their dogs to a race or something, and they're only loading anywhere from 10 to 20 dogs. So if you've got more than that, then you have to start thinking about food, water, containment, a caravan to get these things out of there. And at this point in time, again, where they learned from the last fire was that they've got these in order. We actually, Saturday night or Sunday night, I really can't remember which, it's been an ongoing fury of information coming in and out, but they actually had trucks ready. They had stock trailers ready. The state troopers were doing a run through so that people could indeed get to where they needed to go, get evacuated, and get back out. So, yeah, you're talking a lot of effort. And if you've got your evacuation in order and you've got it all down, some people actually have a notebook that's like 2 inches thick of all their buddies, all their truck information, all their spots that they can go to. And, of course, we do have local areas, Jansen's Funeral Home, Underdog Feeds, and other areas that are ready and willing to take these animals in. The Menard Center has opened their doors. So it's a big process. You don't just, like as you say, you don't get in and out in just an hour. It doesn't happen that way. So you've got to be ready.
And I remember seeing a picture earlier in the week of Iditarod musher Caron Hendrickson, and she was loading up all of her dogs in a dump truck. That's how serious it was. I don't know if she had rented that or she owned that or whatever, but she was loading her dogs up real quick into a dump truck to get them out of there as quickly as possible. So that just is just how, kind of a testament of how quickly things can change and how quickly we must act. Is that right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, it changes at the drop of a dime, especially when you're thinking about the weather. You know, and my understanding is we're supposed to be experiencing some more winds coming up this weekend. So, again, that's going to put every musher in the line of fire on call to get ready to evacuate. And at this point, I think they've all basically got everything in order. But, again, you're looking at time. You know, you can't just jump in and load 50 dogs and jump out. As many mushers last Sakai Fire could tell you, yourself included, again, that does take time. And, you know, I think a lot of people envision, well, you know, all they got to do is this, this, and this. But you have to understand the frame of mind of the musher and the people that are being affected by a fire close. Sometimes, you know, it takes more than just one person to keep you in order so that you don't get too excited and are able to stay calm. But I have never been affected in that way, but I would not want my nervous system to be in that position. So I think right now everybody's realized that, okay, this is and can happen again, and they were very grateful for what they have learned 4 years ago.
And I want to talk about how Willow Dog Mushers is getting involved in just a second. But you had talked a little bit about the evacuation plan. And I know that the MatSu Borough, where we live, has a stipulation in our kennel license protocol that says that we must have an acceptable evacuation plan with a place to go and addresses and, kind of a phone tree type thing. And that was implemented a few years ago. I believe it was actually before the Sakai Fire, but it was a good thing to add to our kennel license. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yes, the borough made a good choice there, and that is what has kept kennels at this point in time being prepared. So yes.
So let's talk about the Willow Dog Mushers. You guys are a relatively small dog mushing club here in Willow, and for folks that are listening outside, if you know, Willow is the official start of Iditarod, and as we mentioned at the top of the show, there are thousands of sled dogs here in our community of about 2,000 to 2,500. I would venture to say that there are probably more dogs than people, and the area is about 30 miles long from the start of Willow to the end up near Talkeetna. So it is a huge area for people that are thinking about just how big of an area it is. And I know you said that most of the folks do live kind of in that Parks Highway corridor, but there are all sorts of little offshoots of where people live. So my first question to you in regards to the club, Christine, is what are you guys doing? I know you're being very proactive and you're putting out a lot of information on Facebook about, where people can go and that. What are you guys focusing on right now?
Right now we're focusing on those mushers that are in an absolute emergency situation. We've had calls from pet owners versus, dog kennels, and we've tried to assist in ways that we can. But putting somebody in the fire zone for a few of the animals, we prefer to use the animal control people and whatnot so they can go in and out more securely for the smaller areas. But as far as the larger kennels and emergency things, what we've got a current list of telephone numbers, email addresses, and areas for placement. So we've got people that are willing to come in with trucks and trailers. We have people that are willing to transport in and out. We have people that are willing to place the dogs, kennels. We just got a placement this morning. Musher called, says we've got a bunch of puppies. I'm thinking that, the smoke and everything is an issue as well, and they're caring more about the puppies. So we just placed the puppies this morning with kennels. So we're here to help. We're not here to interfere. Our numbers are out there. Our pages are out there. They're welcome to contact us anytime. We will take immediate action with the names that we have that we can contact that are willing to go to drop of a dime to help these people.
And I know that you're a very small club, and I'm sure you don't have an unlimited budget for this, and we're going to figure out ways that people can help here in a little bit. But with being an all-volunteer club, and I'm sure that just about everybody in the club is also a dog musher, and they potentially have to worry about their own dogs and their own homes and all of that, how are people becoming involved aside from the club? I know that I've read things on Facebook of people saying, I'm parked here at the community center, I'm willing to help, and, they're dog mushers themselves. Is that sort of what everybody's doing, or is there some type of coordinated effort where you say, okay, guys, A, B, C, and D, you guys stage here, or what are you guys doing on a logistical front?
We have those that, of course, that are volunteering on their own, not through the Willow Dog Mushers, and they are on standby, whether it be at the community center or even up further now that the fire danger has moved up to now 76. But what I would say is that our efforts are, yes, we have somebody in place that is willing to go. We don't have a large amount, like you say, we are a small club. And we don't have a large amount of funds to funnel through things. But at this point in time, the funds aren't really what's needed. Right now, we're looking at the availability to assist with evacuations. And then we also have other companies and whatnot that are in hand for supplying dog food and or water once we were to evacuate. So our proactiveness at this point in time is to remain here and available and on call. Myself, Marianne Schapmeyer, Marshall Cogdill, Rudy Bolt, these are other members of the Willow Dog Mushers, and we are actually available at any time to speak with, to assist with, and then figure out where we go from there. Our main focus is to make sure that these kennels are safe and are fed and watered at this point in time. And right now, we have not had any emergency evacuations. So those that have left in plenty of time and have taken care of their dogs the way that they're intended to.
And that could definitely change really at a drop of a hat. As you'd mentioned, if the winds change, and I know that that's potentially a problem this weekend with higher winds coming in, which was actually the start of the fire last weekend. I guess there was some pretty strong winds. And, of course, with the dry conditions, we haven't had much rain all summer, and this is very unusual for us. I know it's the start of the state fair here this weekend, and that's pretty much really the start of the rainy season. You can figure when the state fair starts, the rain starts, and that kind of goes on until it snows in late October, early November. So my next segment here, Christine, is about how folks can help. And I know that you said there aren't any emergency situations right now, but as you know, going through this and through any natural disaster, many people are willing to help, but sometimes that can get overwhelming. And I know you see on Facebook where people are saying, I have a bag of baby clothes, or I have dishes, or I have, whatever it is. And of course they want to be proactive themselves, but that can be a little bit overwhelming, when there's 1,000 bottles of water and there's not any dog food, or there's not a place to go, or there's not places where people can tie out their dogs. And when you're thinking about 50 dogs, that takes quite a bit of space to tie them out. It's not in somebody's backyard, so to speak. So what are you guys looking for in terms of aid or help? And again, I want to stress that there's not any emergencies right now, but that could change very quickly.
Yes, if it changes and things happen, what we are looking for is someone who is interested in possibly accumulating dog food, not necessarily delivering it at the time, but having the availability of getting to it. Dog food and water, of course, are the two number one concerns when you are relocating. And as you said, space. Space is huge. Jansen's Funeral Home, they're in Wasilla. They've got a huge area. The Menard Center has a huge area. We have other kennels that are larger kennels that have even downsized. Dee Dee John Rowe is assisting with placements as well because she's majorly downsized, so she's got the room. We have the larger kennels that are not in the line of fire, that are not going to be jeopardized at any time. Those are the kennels that are stepping up and are ready to assist if needed. People should be aware that all the things for displaced families, of course, have a place to go to. We've got the churches, we've got the thrift stores, we've got other areas that are taking in items, such as you said, clothes and dishes and things like that. As far as the Willow Dog Mushers, if anyone is willing to donate anything as far as dog bowls, chains, dog food, whatever to be assisted with, we get contacted. We'll store it if we can get to it easily, or if they're willing to hang on to it, and then we contact them and say, okay, we have an emergency. We do need you to take this to this area, and then they'll be able to go and do that. So it's basically water, food, space, and finances and things like that. We're not concerned with right now because, again, we haven't had a major loss for a kennel. So therefore, the Willow Dog Mushers at this point in time is not requesting any finances to help with this unless it does become a major situation. And those willing to, we would have put in place. We do have a base where we can put it in place and go for donations if needed.
So you talked about dog food, and I know that Dog Mushers, with me being one as well, is really particular about the food that we feed our dogs. And I'm sure that folks that are listening that may want to buy a round of kibble or whatever may think about just going down to Walmart or whatever and buying a bag of pedigree. Is that acceptable, or should we be thinking about what the dogs are eating right now?
As a musher, you know full well how difficult it is to feed dogs different feed. You know what it does to their stomachs,
right?
Their digestive systems. So what they're used to, or at least close to what they're used to, we are advising people that if you're wishing to purchase dog food, we are advising that they go to Underdog Feeds and get their main kibble that a lot of the mushers will use. It's good kibble. I'm not quite sure about what it might be put together by Underdog Feed, but I know that a lot of mushers go through Underdog Feeds. We're not asking people to buy the most expensive dog food, but we do have to consider, pets, families, things like that, no problem, because they're not feeding a high protein diet and or a high-fat diet, depending on where they're at in the mushing season. So our desire would be for people to contact Underdog Feeds, maybe say, hey, you know what, we'd like to purchase 5 bags of dog food. Can you keep it there, and we'll pay for it? And that way, if somebody contacts you, you can say, hey, we got 5 bags purchased here. We've got this there. But it's our desire that, as you said, to keep the dogs within as much to their normal diet as possible. These are sled dogs. These aren't pets. So they do require a different feed. So I would suggest going to Underdog Feeds myself and not going to Walmart and picking up a dog. And if you wish to do that, that's great. I would deliver some to the Menard Center. There are some kennels there. Recreation kennels are a little different. They don't use the high expensive feed. There's no need to. So they can purchase from Walmart and places like that. But the best thing to do, and my understanding is cost-wise, it's not too much more for Underdog's normal bag of dog food versus one that you would get at Walmart's.
Right. I think it's about $32 or $38. Christine, if I can keep you for just a few minutes, I have a couple of more questions before we close. My next question is in regard to the future and in terms of the fire. I saw a post last night that the public information officer put out. His name is Cale Casey. He's also heavily involved in the mushing community, and for folks that follow mushing have probably seen his videos. But it's my understanding that he said that they probably won't have this fire contained until it snows. And that was a real eye-opener when I read that, because that could be a long time from now, but that's sort of the nature of forest fires. They get down underground, and then they just kind of smolder there, and they can pop up any time. What are your guys' thoughts about that statement? Because that could potentially be a heck of a long time from now.
It sure could. I read that myself, Robert, and I thought, wow, we're just going to make sure that we're going to have all our ducks in a row, and we're not going to just lay easy on the situation. We're going to keep it in the back of our minds. Every meeting we have, we're going to discuss what could possibly happen, where we're at this time, and where the help can be shifted. So, yeah, I know winter, when he said that, I thought, wow, this is a major impact. And like you said, because of the dryness of our summer, yeah, these can get underneath in the ground, underneath the trees. When we had dogs, our children, we had a tree out back, and lo and behold, somehow there was a fire that had embered underneath of it, and one day it just, it poofed up. Now, mind you, it was out in an open area. There was no concerns, but I did actually see that happen, and it was months later that the fire was 5-ish tree. So, yeah, that is a very possible situation, and we will not rest easy, if I can use that term, until we have clearance that these fires are no longer a threat.
So my next question again is forecasting into the future, and it regards training and potentially races. I know that you guys probably aren't thinking a lot about that now since everybody's in emergency mode, but a lot of the area where the fires are taking place, and in particular the Deshka fire over in the Willow Swamp area, is a big-time training ground for a lot of teams. Have you guys put any thought into that whatsoever about how training and or races could be impacted by huge fire events like this?
Oh, absolutely. The fire area right now is smack dab in the middle of the Willow 300 sled dog race that we run. The Iditarod, the junior Iditarod, those races are out in the areas where the Deshka's at. Ours is more towards, Sheep Creek. The Willow Dog Mushers, we were sitting here thinking, okay, Sheep Creek goes. Sheep Creek is our number one checkpoint and our finish. So, and then we head north to Trapper Creek, and then we head over to the west over by Forks Roadhouse. So, yeah, we've got this in our minds to thinking, okay, how is this going to impact the trails? Trail crews are going to be out looking at the situation, and hopefully this is not too devastating for the trails. There are a lot of people out there involved. Steve Charles, no doubt he's going to have his hand on this and following through with the trails over by the Deshka area. We've got trail people up north. So, yeah, as far as what we've thought about in the future, we're just thinking, okay, we need to get a hold on this, check it out, make sure what we're dealing with so that we can move forward with these races.
Right.
And now's the time to start moving.
It is.
As you well know, right now, it's time that you have to start planning and getting things in order, and that's a little bit iffy right now.
It is, and I know that just basic trail maintenance, if you're going out just on, a quick run around the local trails, it could take all day just to cut down a few trees. And I can imagine if the entire trail system is decimated by fallen trees from fire or whatever, it could really be a huge job for the trail crews there. So, Christine, I have one more question, and it's probably a big picture and potentially a very concerning and alarming question. It would be if one of the local mushers were to lose their home and their kennel and they were to lose everything. Is there anything in place right now? And folks that are listening probably know that most mushers are, they're hand-to-mouth folks. They aren't the rich folks that just have, gobs of money to spend. We're often spending all of our money on our dogs. But what is available if something like that were to happen? And I know you and I talked off air, and we're a prideful bunch. We don't like to ask for handouts and things. What would happen if that were to happen to either one of the larger kennels that may have 50 or 100 dogs, or even one of the smaller ones that may have 12 or 15 dogs? Because when you lose everything, you don't have anywhere to go, and you may just have the shirt on your back and a dog truck full of dogs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, what we are implementing at this time, and there are other agencies out there, we've got actually someone who's rearing to go to deal with dog boxes, build them, get them out there, get them to the mushers. We have several plans ready to go as far as Willow Dog Mushers. We would, of course, set in auctions. There are other agencies around Canada who's willing to start up an auction as soon as needed. All we need to do is say, hey, we've got a musher who's lost everything. We'll start that. We'll have several places for the Willow Dog Mushers that you'll be able to donate. You just contact the Willow Dog Mushers through Facebook at the time that if something should happen, we will end up having some sort of a fund available for mushers only. They can call in, do PayPal. We do have PayPal and whatnot, and we would make it work. We would put ourselves into forward motion, and we would move, and the community and others outside of the community, as you well know, even though we do work hand to mouth, where we take care of one another.
Right.
You know, we're here for anyone. And so people that really want to get involved, hold on, you know, don't jump the gun. Let's see what happens. And when people start hearing that a devastation has come to a musher and whatnot, then all the information will be on our webpage. We'll give it to where you can go to donate, what you can give, how you can give. That is all in place and ready to go forward if we do have a serious situation.
And I say that, Christine, because during the Sakai Fire, there were a bunch of mushers that did lose everything. And there were, as I mentioned, there were some pretty big-name kennels that lost everything, and then some small recreational type mushers that lost their homes and everything as well. So it was really devastating really fast, and hopefully that does not happen again. And like you said, I think we're much more prepared now than we were just 4 years ago when this happened. So Christine, to end the show, I know you had talked about your Facebook page and your website and all of that. How can folks get in touch with you guys? What is the best place? I'm sure Facebook is probably it, and I'm sure you don't want to be inundated with a lot of emails and text messages and phone calls and all of that. How can folks find you guys and potentially offer assistance if needed?
Like you said, Facebook page is our number one go-to. Our willowdogmushers.org. You can leave messages on our pages. Willow 300 Sled Dog Race has a Facebook page. You can leave a message with them. We check these regularly every single day. During this time and period, we're checking them, like every 10, 15 minutes. Between several of us on the board, we are constantly watching the pages to be able to field whatever we can. So that's going to be your best bet, and or, contacting the local community center or whatever. We're not putting phone numbers out there because, as you said, we would be inundated with numbers. We would be on the phone all day long. So Facebook would be your best bet through the Willow Dog Mushers, or if you know of a kennel and you are currently able to contact kennels in the area, contact them personally. See if there's anything that they would need or could use if it comes to that. But at this point in time, we're going to keep it at our Facebook pages.
Sounds good. Christine, hang on just a second after we close so you and I can wrap up. But on behalf of my guest today, Christine Stitt, she is the Vice President of Willow Dog Mushers here in Willow, Alaska, and we're talking about the fire danger to the musher community. There's probably at least 1,000 dogs that can potentially be impacted, and a heck of a lot of mushers and their homes as well. This is Robert Forto for Mushing Radio. We will see you guys next time. Goodbye.
From DogWorks Radio, this is Mushing Radio. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find a link on the episode notes. You can tap or swipe on the episode cover art, and you'll see some offers from our sponsors. You can support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have heard, we would love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe too. Your hosts are Alex Stein and Robert Forto. Our producer is Robert Forto, created for DogWorks Radio. Did you know that Alaska DogWorks trains service dogs for those in need throughout North America? Each and every service dog that is trained through the Lead Dog Service Dog Program and Michelle Forto and her team has an individual training plan. We train for autistic, mobility, psychiatric, and PTSD for our soldiers for service work. If you know of someone that may need a service dog, please take a moment and check out Alaska DogWorks on social media and at alaskadogworks.com.